Welcome to season 2 of The Shift Stories of Resistance and Resilience, a multi platform conversation series produced and hosted by me, Mark Travis Rivera, the professional storyteller. I believe that stories have the power to change the world. Through honest conversations and powerful storytelling, we explore how people challenge systems, shift narratives, and transform culture, creating a more inclusive, just, and liberated world in our lives and in our work. Here on this podcast, you'll hear from changemakers, truth tellers, and community builders who are using their voices and their stories to move us forward. So if you believe in the power of storytelling to spark change, you're in the right place. Listen closely, take notes, recognize our shared humanity. This is The Shift. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of The Shift, Stories of Resistance and Resilience. Season 2 is kicking off como fuego, with fire, with heat. We have everyone from Darnell Lamont Walker, author of Never Could Say Goodbye, to comedian and author of Legitimate Kid, Aida Rodriguez, and so many more amazing guests lined up for this season. You don't want to miss out. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your community. And today's guest, I've been wanting to have this conversation through this lens on this podcast for a very long time. And I was just waiting for the right person to have this conversation with. And Lord and behold, no pun intended, I came across today's guest on Instagram. And like many of the connections I make in the world, I reach out to them and say, hey, I really like your work, or hey, I really like your messaging. Hey, can we connect? Can we meet up? He also happens to be based in Atlanta, Georgia, so that made it a little easier to meet up for lunch. But today's guest is the very talented, very intelligent, socially awkward, endearingly so. Dion Davis, who is an independent artist whose work exists at the intersection of spirituality and is emotionally layered. He blends personal insight with cultural commentary, creating music that resonates with intimacy and impact. His work is rooted in authenticity, introspection, emotional complexity, resilience, and a refusal to compromise integrity. Above all else, he is committed to authenticity with his expression, regardless of the medium. He's a singer, songwriter, poet, storyteller, truth teller, and a very, very smart and kind human. He's my guest today on the shift. Welcome, Dion.
Thank you.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing so good. How are you this Monday?
Good, I'm dipping and doing it, busy day, busy day.
I
Another day, another dollar, as they say. But
got my mug.
I did not ask him to do that, by the way.
Nope, nope.
He is, are you a lefty?
hmm
Yes, okay.
Yep,
I
yep.
forget that because the righties see a different message and the lefties see the flower. So I love that. Okay. Hi, y'all. I did not ask him to do that. He's just totally doing that on his own regard. But if you do want merch, go to marktravisrivera.com/store. Again, that's marktravisrivera.com and click on the store button on my navigation bar to order your official book, a signed copy of my book, and also a mug tumbler that is of high quality, may I add, and it keeps the stuff hot. Can you
Yes,
confirm?
it does. Yes, this
Okay,
has been in here at least for an hour and a half now, and
it's still
ooh,
piping
she's
hot.
spicy,
Okay.
spicy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's a good one. Shout out to Christine and OJ, my vendors from Your Vision Brought to Life, for creating my merch. So Dion, now that we have the promotional stuff out the way, who are you outside the professional highlights I read in your bio?
Yeah, that's a great question. I view it as I'm a spirit having a human experience.
Mm,
I'm a brother. I'm a Theo. I'm a friend. I'm a work in progress, and I am successful.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Yep.
You are that. Okay. Um,
Okay.
okay. um, what is your personal concept of resistance and resilience given the times that we're in right now?
I think it's a refusal to not live authentically. Yeah, yeah. My concept of resistance is to exist authentically and unapologetic, being fully myself, Like it will be my life's work to be myself and become myself. I
Mm,
think that just existing one in my skin as a black man, as a queer man, as a gay man, like just existing, breathing, it's resistance. I mean, I think resilience is a little bit more like it's like your drive. It's like that rah rah, that dog in you. You know, it's just like that your determination, your agency. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I love that. And
yeah.
what I also love about you is that he has a new song out called "Better," which we'll make sure we link his Spotify or whatever. We'll link his new single, his website, and Instagram on our show notes so you can check it out. But I love "Better," and what I love about the song is first of all, it's a very poppy, catchy kind of song. Um, and but I love that you sing in Spanglish. You are Afro. You are a Black Latino.
Hmm.
You and I'll let you share more about your identities. But you are a
Yeah,
Black Latino who sings in English and Spanish. And this particular song, which is I believe this is the first single you released in 6 years, if I remember correctly.
yeah. It's been a small eternity.
Yeah, Small Eternity.
It's
And
true.
I love it. I love it. And you know what's so funny? Not only do I love it, but when I put it on my playlist for my event, other people liked it. They didn't know it was your song at first. And I intentionally,
Hey.
just to make sure that it was unbiased reaction to your music. And I just really love it. And I love that it's in Spanglish.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
so
aquí hablamos Spanglish, okay?
yes,
Ya tú
it's Spanglish.
sabes.
I'm Puerto Rican, so I don't sound as eloquent as him with his Colombian accent, but it's okay. We make it work.
Ah,
Um, yes, but you are a new friend of mine, and um, you are the first new friend I've made since I've reoriented myself with how I develop friendships.
mm,
I am someone that can make friends with a fly on the wall. Like I am just that kind of social butterfly.
yeah,
And I realized since moving to Atlanta that not everyone actually wants to do the work of being a friend. They want proximity to whatever it is that I have or do or whatever. And so I've had to create different filters for people and kind of filter out the the gnats from the fireflies, essentially.
yeah.
And you were one of the first new friends I've made, the last new friend I've made recently, under a new filtering system, to say the least. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we connected. And I, it's not hard to make friendships for me or make connections, but I
Yeah,
realize the connection is meant to be a friendship. And so I'm learning that as my own process of becoming evolves.
that's a
But
bar.
yeah, and you are a new friend
Yeah,
of mine, and you have quite a vast, layered story about becoming your authentic self. Can you talk to us about how you became this version of yourself and how it informs your art?
yeah. I think that coming out was the catalyst for me. I was heavily involved with ministry years ago, and I unfortunately dreamed a lot smaller spaces. Um, and I thought I was called to a life of ministry, and it was everything that I dreamed into, and I thought that I was meant to be in those spaces. Um,
Mm,
But I just had enough of trying to reconcile values, my beliefs, who I am, who I was becoming, who I am becoming to religious frameworks. And it was just like and like something's got to give. So I just did some soul searching and I was just like, all right, like if it means that I lose everything I thought I wanted, like I will live authentically.
yeah,
And my beliefs have to evolve with me. It just is what it is. And
yeah,
I think how that informs my art is just like I am integrating all these things about my identity. And it's so interesting too, because like I and just accepting yourself and becoming yourself and looking at yourself with kinder eyes and holding yourself in a kinder way and not trying to conform to be what someone else wants you to be or what society may ask of you. You are, especially on the matter of queerness, like you are met and confronted with so many things about yourself. Like you might notice like you might be a little too giggly or you do have like a little bit of a limp wrist and
okay,
moments like that. And yeah, so like there were moments for me along my journey where I was like I had to like look at those things and not try to like correct those things or edit those things out of who I am. It's just who I am. And to
yeah,
just love myself, let myself be. And I think in allowing that safe space to just be with myself and become, naturally it informs my work.
yeah.
as far as what I do creatively.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And,
Yeah.
you and I hit it off initially because I don't think we knew this initially when we first connected. I
Mhm.
wanted to be a youth pastor. I grew up in the church, and I wanted to be a youth pastor. And I came out when I was 17 to everyone. It was like it came out. I came out in phases, but to my church community and the rest of my
Mhm.
family, I came out when I was 17. And my relationship with church is very unique because I had an extended portion of my family were really Christian and helped raise me. And so when I would spend time with them, I would always go to church, and not so much when I was back with my mother because my mother is non-religious person. And so I grew up in a very, or what I like to call it, that once a year Catholic, where you only go to church for Easter. Like
Easter. Yeah, yeah.
Holy Grail of holiday. Maybe she would go for Christmas every so often. But really, my mom's not really a churchgoer, and so I grew up in a very secular home, but also had experiences where I was around my Christian family members who were devout Christians. And I remember, being baptized when I was like 11 years old, and being part of street ministry and doing plays. I played Jesus and the Good Samaritan. I taught preschool, Sunday school. I was heavily involved with the youth team ministry,
Yeah.
and I really thought I wanted to be a youth pastor because all the cool pastors in my eyes growing up were the youth pastors. They were the ones that
Mhm.
were a little bit younger, less stuffy, knew the word, was a person of Christ, but also knew pop culture and like could
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Like they had that swag.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah,
really get.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so when I came out, one of the first experiences of religious trauma that I could recall that was the most devastating towards my faith was they laid hands to pray on me. And they prayed that the demonic forces would be released from me, that I would be saved through Christ. And I remember spending months and months of my life crying, reading scripture, reading Leviticus, trying to pray the gay away. And I remember this one person who I don't longer talk to. His name is Ozzy, and this is back in high school, and he was one of the few visibly queer people in my community. And
Mhm.
I remember him saying to me, "I can't fuck with you." He didn't say it in this way, but I can't talk to you because you are deep in shame around your sexuality, and I'm not ashamed. And it was the first time that I had to confront my authentic self and be like,
Yeah.
I can either love myself for my queerness and all that I am, or I can keep trying to pray the gay away and be miserable.
Yep.
And there's some dark days.
Yeah. Can relate.
Yeah. I know you can.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's why I knew I wanted to have you for this conversation. I was like, I want to have a conversation about spirituality and queerness, but not
Yeah.
through typical, religious trauma is the focal point. Because what I love about who I've become is that
Mm.
my queerness and my spirituality are no longer at odds with each other.
Yep.
Right? They're fully integrated. And,
Yeah.
and I know that you're still on this own journey, but can you talk to me a little bit more about what you think we're going through right now as a nation? In large part, what we're going through right now, in large part, I think it's because of religious right pushing its doctrine.
Mm.
Um, how did you free yourself from the I can never say this word right. The
Evangelical.
evangelical, thank you, arm of the church.
Gotcha.
That's what the church you were involved with. And I'm not saying that everyone who's part of the event that word
Hmm. Evangelical.
evangelical is MAGA or alt right or conservative right.
Hmm.
That arm of the church has been very conservative. And how did you free yourself from that sector?
Yeah. So I just remember around just feeling discomfort in my spirit 2014 to 2016. There was a lot of things I was noticing. If you'll remember, like this is the rise of Trump. This is I remember the summer, excuse me, the summer of 2015 and the summer of 2016. There was a lot of police violence drawn back on like Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, like all these really traumatic things. And I'm seeing this happen, and the news is covering it, and it seems to be the topic of conversation on everyone's mouth. But then I go to church, and it's crickets, and like no one's. But it's like, oh, praise for Trump, and people aligning themselves with Trump. So I just knew that something was off. Like I felt a well, it just didn't go together no more. Like it just wasn't doing what it had to do. So I freed
Was
myself.
this
Go ahead.
before? Was this before you really understood your sexuality, or was that after?
This was before. This was
Okay.
before. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So I knew freeing myself was necessary, but I knew I had to do it in a slow way because my allegiance to these spaces of faith and to churches was really because of the music and the worship stuff that I was involved in. I was very, very passionate about it. I'm still super passionate about music. Um, and so, I knew I needed to give myself space to grieve what I was losing, which was
Mm,
this um, ability and somewhat freedom to explore the idea of God with a group of people where you're coming week in and week out and you're exploring this and you're having these moments of intimate worship together and everyone's like seemingly on the same page, at least as far as like, baseline beliefs, but whatever, that's besides the point. So, yeah, it, I freed myself again slowly and in waves because I knew I had to grieve some stuff. And I think that I just couldn't make sense of things that were happening in society and what wasn't being said at church. And it was just too and weird. And then once I felt like a deep, complete dissatisfaction and discomfort with my spirit, I was
mm.
just like, all right, I'm cool on this. Like, no, okay, I can't. I don't know, fuck they got going on over there. But, oh, sorry.
No,
But, like, I don't,
you curse here.
yes, okay. Like, I don't know what they got going on over there, but, like, this, again, it don't go together. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
talking more about, and again, I know this already 'cause we've had this conversation, so I'm asking for my
yeah,
audience who don't know you.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
like, Mark, why are you asking me that? You know this.
Uh,
Talk more about how that process of freeing yourself from that sector and how that led to you discovering, or I don't want to say this, I don't want to put words in your mouth, whether it's discovering or revealing
mhm.
or recognizing or acknowledging your queerness, your gayness. Where
Yeah.
that happened in the arc of your life.
Yeah, I think from a very early age, I knew that I was attracted to men, to boys.
Mm,
And it was always something that I just resolved internally that I wouldn't act upon because I thought I was called to ministry. So
mm,
my disposition was like celibacy. Like I was celibate this whole time. Like I wasn't out here doing anything with anybody, going on dates or whatever. The idea of romance was so like out of my mind. It was real. I'm in the Lord's army, team soldiers for Christ.
yeah.
WWJD type vibes.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think, it was always something that I was aware of, I was cognizant of, but it wasn't anything that I was acting on. And I think that having that spiritual discomfort of remaining in those spaces when it felt like the grace had lifted
Mm,
is what kind of gave me the comfort to just be like, all right, let me explore this. Around this time, 2017, moved to Colorado. I was out there for 2 years, and I wasn't super involved in ministry out there. Got involved with the local church, but it wasn't super. But just being away from everything that I thought I wanted here in Atlanta at the time, and those hopes and dreams, and being in a whole new state, and the beauty of the Rockies, just like in every westward direction, was just stunning for me. And I started to explore more of who I was outside of ministry, outside
mm,
of those beliefs, and kind of like build somewhat of a foundation for me. But I ultimately was still involved with ministry to some degree. So I had a hard
yeah.
time letting go. This is why I said I gave myself this space. And
But also,
from 20,
isn't it also your educational background in seminary? Like, didn't you go to school for this work?
something like that, child,
Yeah.
but I really wouldn't call it like a real seminary thing. They just be taking people money.
Okay.
But yeah, so okay, it's the truth though, but
Yeah.
pero que te iba a decir es que when I lived in Colorado, I was still somewhat loosely involved with ministry. So this is what I was mentioning. I gave myself a certain amount of space. And even between the years of 2017 to 2019, I was still doing ministry for Colorado, moved to California, and I was involved with some churches over there. There was a Christian label that wanted to sign me or some shit like that. I don't remember. It all kind of blurs together. It doesn't really matter. But like it was still something I was holding on to. But then during the peak of all this, my journey with spirituality and becoming myself and accepting my queerness and the gay of it all. Uh, in 2020, it was just like, all right, there are people who are not wearing masks. And that seems like a very baseline thing to do to consider your neighbor. So like this is a fundamental like test, like a literal testament, and some of the spaces and people in leadership I've been attached to or adjacent to in some capacity in the same kind of stream of things weren't doing these things, and I was just like, no. And then I was just like, okay, cool, whatever. I like niggas, and it just was what it was, and I was just like, all right, we vibe, and I just
Yeah.
lived life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. We value authenticity at the professional storyteller, y'all. So this is not the kind of podcast where I tell my guests censor themselves. Nah,
Oh,
it's
my
something that
fault.
no. I'm just letting them folks know, like, in case they get like, because we don't censor over here. Now, if someone says something out of pocket, uh,
Mhm.
that like it's fundamentally either misinformation or wrong, or
Yeah.
I'll have facilitate a conversation with that person in real time. But language is not something we censor here. So you might hear a couple f bombs, a couple n words. I don't personally say the n word, so you'll never hear me say it. But I don't believe my colleagues or my friends or people on my podcast. So just FYI for those who are listening, who are maybe new to my universe, called The Shift. Um, I want to talk more about yeah, because I'm just like where I grew up, hearing the N word is not offensive to me,
Okay. Right.
but for some people, it's like, oh wait, it's like
Yeah.
a disclaimer for them. Um, so much of what I remember. This is gonna sound so silly saying this now, but it's okay. Whew. I remember the first time we left. The first time we had lunch together at Zocalo in Atlanta, in Midtown, the gay neighborhood of Atlanta. I remember leaving and I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this man is so brilliant. Like, I was just deeply moved by your intellect, your depth, your sincerity, your authenticity, your talent. And I was like, oh, he's a poet. Like, I was like, all the things that you hadn't necessarily said to me yet, and I was just like, he's all these things. And I was just like, you need to claim it. I remember this the second time we had lunch, I said to you, stop this whole like, oh, I'm not really a writer. I was like, you're a singer-songwriter, yes,
Mhm.
and you're also a poet, and that's okay. And you're like, I'm just kind of dabbling, and I was just like, we don't we're creatives, right? And I think that too often, and you're not the first person I've said this conversation to. Too often, creative
Mhm.
people have a hard time claiming who they are. For a long time, I couldn't call myself a writer. For a long time, I couldn't call myself a choreographer.
Yeah.
I got decades in the game. I got years of accolades, experience, bylines, credits, and it wasn't until I would say the last 5 years of my life where I was like, "Oh, this is who I am." So
Yeah.
much so that my brand is the professional storyteller.
Mhm.
So much so that I have the audacity to say I'm a professional at what I do. Not simply because I get paid to do this, but because I put in the work to learn my craft,
Yeah.
hone
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference between right. And I always tell people, are you an aspiring artist or are you an artist who is emerging? Right? Because how we
Mm.
talk about ourselves and our work, how we frame things for ourselves and for others really change the way we view what we do and who we are. And for a
Yeah.
long time I couldn't separate the shame of what I had learned in the church from who I've become.
Yeah.
And the other day, I was having lunch with a couple strangers, and I don't, again, I have a new filtering process for new people. I met these two
Yeah.
Black queer women at Vinoteca, which is a wine. They do wine tastings there, and I went there on a Sunday after a work thing. But that's actually after the Bloom Room. So after I saw you that Saturday,
Okay,
before
bet.
I went to a wine tasting after doing some work stuff, and they were doing a Girl Scout cookie tasting with the wines, and I was like, "Oh, that's really unique." I never thought of doing like a wine pairing with Girl Scout cookies, so I'm going to sit down and do this. And as people were walking by, I was telling them, "Oh, by the way, if you like Girl Scout cookies, they're doing a wine tasting and they're pairing them with Girl Scout cookies for you to try." And I said to maybe like maybe 10 people total while I was people watching. And
Yeah.
one of the people I spoke to were these two Black queer women who ended up going inside and actually doing it. They weren't planning on it. They were just walking by, and I convinced them to try it, and they loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they got a bottle, and then we started chatting. And I kind of approached them from like I was staying outside, they were inside. Eventually, I went inside to charge my phone, and I got a little close to them, and I was like, I don't want to be too close. I'm trying, and
Yeah,
Max,
yeah.
oh, he
Fill it
like,
out. Fill it.
yeah, fill it out, and we hit it off so much so that we hung out for like hours that day, and then
That's awesome.
we ended up going for free for having lunch, and so I'm fast forwarding after a few drinks. I'm fast forwarding to lunch, and they're like, "Oh, do you pray?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I do, but you don't have to." And they're like, "Oh, let's pray together." And it was the first time in my life that I had prayed with other queer people over a meal in Atlanta, or in general ever in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
When I have prayed over my food, like with my straight girlfriend, Alicia Harris, who's one of my friends you'll eventually meet. She was based here in Atlanta. She's a Christian lover. She's also on the podcast. Her episode drops this week. And so she's the only few people I ever pray with, like over my food. Because, you can't just have everybody praying over you. Because the religious trauma experience was literal praying hands laid on me. And
Mm,
I'll never forget, it was like they all were like surrounding me and I was crying and they all put their hands on me and they were all trying to pray the gay away and they're trying to swaddle me in God's love. And I was just like, it felt like such a, it felt, it felt the furthest I ever felt from God. It was in that moment. And it took me a long time to forgive them and to forgive myself for the shame
mm,
and the hatred I had towards myself.
is
Yeah. And there are so many people right now who may be listening to this episode, whether your friends or my network or whatever, who are struggling with their faith and their queerness. And for me, those two things are no longer in contradiction
mhm.
in my eyes. They
Yeah,
coexist.
yeah,
How are you reconciling with your own faith as a queer person right now? Because I know that you're on a different part of your journey than I am.
yeah. For me, I feel like there's nothing left to really reconcile.
Mm,
Similarly to you, like I think that I'm just living life. I'm not divorcing I'm not trying to make sense of it. I think that part of this journey is to remain with questions that go unanswered.
yeah,
There's things about the divine that I just won't know. I'm comfortable with that. I do think that I keep or maintain a healthier level of interest and intrigue into that thing, into the idea of God, goddess, whatever she might be, whatever they might be, whatever it may be, whoever those things are, whatever that thing is.
yeah,
Yeah, but I just maintain a healthier level of interest and intrigue about it than I had previously.
yeah,
So, if there is some sort of omniscient entity, I don't think that they would want me to live in torment. I don't think they would want me to be at odds with myself. Yeah, I just
yeah,
yeah, that's how I'm reconciling with it. I'm just like, I'm me, and I feel like if there is something that set all this into motion, then I'm meant to be and become everything that I'm meant to be. But I also feel like at the same time, like my consciousness and just everyone else's consciousness around me is what makes up the idea of God.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think it's remaining. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like I'm not down with organized religion. I don't think we will ever turn
Yeah.
physical church. I just
Uh-huh.
can't. The amount of anxiety I get when I
Yeah.
go into a physical church freaks me
It's
out.
real. It's
It's real,
real.
and I'm working through that, right? But I think
Yeah.
like praying over my meals, right? Like I've
Hmm.
even pray over my meals, like and I don't ever make a thing out of it. I just bow my head,
Yeah.
do my
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
business. For some people, they pray with me or they pray, they just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
There were times even when I wasn't showing my faith out loud that if
Hmm.
I saw someone praying, I would stop talking.
Mm.
Raised in a way that when someone is
Yep.
praying, be still, right? Be
Yeah.
respect the moments of communion
Mhm, mhm,
and being one with spirit. And so for me, so much of my life is spiritual. And for a
mm,
long time, I just didn't talk about it because I didn't want to be or deal with the far left that's like very anti anything spiritual or faith based
mhm.
here. And I also didn't want to deal with the far right saying, well, you can't really be a person of faith because you're choosing to live in sin, right? So I didn't want to deal with
Right.
polar opposite spectrum of things.
Uh-huh.
And then it kind of came back to what you and I always talk about is I'm just gonna be me, right? And
Mhm.
so you don't gotta like it, you don't gotta agree with me. You're gonna respect me though, right? You're gonna respect me because that's not up for negotiation. That's not negotiable.
Right.
But you don't have to necessarily agree with me. And so I
Yep.
think for me, what I love about meeting someone like you is that it shows possibility. It shows that we can grow up a certain way and grow
Yeah.
up with certain belief systems. And while they might be that might be part of the reason why you suppress yourself, there are other cultural aspects, right? You are a black man, right? A black man
Mhm.
in the South, a black Latino, right?
Right.
Colombian, right? There's a lot of layers to all the reasons why
Yeah.
you have been either not revealing certain parts of yourself or choosing not to
Hmm.
engage in that part of yourself. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you were being inauthentic, right? It just
Yeah.
means you were just living in a world where you couldn't really be yourself. And I think to this day, there's still many of us who are not free to be ourselves because we're afraid. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, our authenticity has
Yeah.
cost us family, friends, opportunities, right? Things that we thought we would do with our lives. We had to grieve
Yep.
that. You talked about grieving earlier. There were a lot of
Yep.
I've grieved a lot in my life.
Hmm.
I'm choosing to be myself. But you know
Yeah.
what? One thing I always tell people is that the price of grief, right? The price of loving someone is to have to grieve them, right? Having to grieve the parts of them that no longer exist or the parts that have died or whatever. And I think
Yeah.
for me, choosing to love myself and be fully myself, well, I have to grieve the things I thought I would become. I never will become that youth pastor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll never get married in a church. I'll never do those things, right? Even
Hmm.
though growing up, I thought I would. And so having to reconcile who I thought I would be with who I've come
Yeah.
to be. I
Yeah.
mean, it's still there's a bit of grief. There's a bit like I still miss some people in my
Oh,
life.
absolutely.
There's still,
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's still parts of the church or worship that you may grieve or miss. And
Sure.
for me, what I missed was being in community with people who didn't shame me for having a belief system. Because I mean, Alicia talks about this all the time. She is a Christian. Don't try. Don't. She is a Christian. I am a God fearing woman, right? That's what she does in her podcast
Mhm.
with me. But there are some people in her life who are not that, who don't
Yeah.
really like that. And there are people, right? And so she has friends of all different kinds of backgrounds. And I think that what's happened right now in our country is that we've become such a fractured, faction based nation where it's like it's us versus them, it's the believers from the non believers,
Yeah.
the straight from the
Yeah.
queers, the trans from the queers,
Uh-huh.
all these things are in opposition. And for me, I want us to get back to the fucking table. Like, can we get back to the table of having real conversations and being?
Yeah.
Recently, I was having a Facebook conversation in public with a college associate of mine, and she and I have not spoken in years, but we've known each other online through college and stuff for years. And she has become this MAGA far right conservative person. And I shared a post. It wasn't even my original thoughts, but I shared these things, and I'm very intellectual, so uh, you better come correct because I'm a drag you in a very interesting, kind way to you. And so all these things were happening, and I'm rebutting her, and I'm asking these questions, I'm probing, and I'm probing, and I'm probing, and eventually she unfriends me, and eventually she decides to slide into my DMs with some wild ass shit that she wasn't trying to say publicly. So then I screenshotted that message and put it back on the comment thread that we were having and saying, "Hey y'all, this is what she really feels like. This is what she really feels. This is what she
Yep.
really thinks." And she couldn't handle the fact that I was challenging her in a way that
Hmm.
make her confront her own biases. Because
Yep.
there are people in my life who voted for Trump because of the economy, because of the cost of food and all these things. And I remember saying to this one relative through marriage who was a Christian woman, I said, "You're telling me that you're putting the cost of groceries over the cost of life, like you're valuing the cost of your groceries over the value of life.
Hmm.
Where is the Christ in that? Where is God in that? Because that doesn't
Hmm.
reconcile my
Hmm.
visions of God or the church or
Yeah.
being a believer. Like I would rather have paid a little bit more short term and ensure that life was being protected, right? So that people can have time, right? People always think, the economy, the government, all these things is a very complex system. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't fix shit overnight. But this new leader, this emergence of Trump 2.0, um, really showed people their ass. Like it really showed people's ass, and it really showed them who
Hmm.
they are. And I can't respect those people. Like we could have a policy differential. You can say
Hmm.
we need to have more rigorous screening process for immigration. I think we
Mhm.
need to ban all immigration. We need to close the border completely for a period of time. You can say I think we need to be harsher on crime and all these other things. We can have policy differences on these, but when the difference becomes rooted in racism and homophobia and transphobia and sexism and classism, those are no longer debates. We're not
Right.
having policy debates. Now
Right.
we're having conversations about our misalignment and values. And now I can't fuck with you.
Right.
No, I can't. Right. And it's so sad that we live in a world right now where we can't have conversations with people across the aisle or people who may not necessarily agree with
Yeah.
all. And I have
Yeah.
plenty of friends I don't agree with on everything. Like, I have friends who are abolitionists. I'm not an
Yeah.
abolitionist. I think we need to have criminal justice reform. I think policing needs a major overhaul, but I don't believe in
Mhm.
abolishing police.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so where do I fall, right? Am I not considered right? Am I considered MAGA? Am I right? Because there's all these
Ah,
like these extremes now. There's no space for nuance. And what I admire about you and your story and your work is that there's always nuance. It's always layered. So talk to me a little bit more about your music because you just released a song entitled "Better," available
yeah.
in your music.
Mhm.
I really, really love. But what's next for you creatively? What are you working on? And then I'll ask you my last question.
Uh, what's next for me is the moon, baby. Like I want to do it all. I I want to do it all. I think music is always
Okay.
going to be a focus of mine, but I have, I can write, I can do graphic design, I can do this, I can do that. So I just want to do it all. But mostly it's just my focus is music. I'm keeping my antenna up, just remaining inspired and open to whatever feels like it's aligned. And I can meet the moment because I have put in a lot of work across multiple mediums, excuse me, mediums. What are mediums?
Mediums, mediums. Either.
So I'm open to it all. Focusing on music, focusing on just living a creative life. I would love to leave my job at
What,
some point.
what do
I
you
would
think?
love to be able to just focus on living and leading a creative life.
It takes time.
But
It takes time.
yes, yeah, it takes time. But I'm not despising the current tension that I'm in because I think you do need a certain set of you do need tension and you do need limitations and you do need that tension to create something real, to create something real that's literally nuance, like I'm living it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, that's what's next for me. I Someone told me, this was a leader in my life years ago when I was involved in ministry. They looked at me, they said, Dion, I just think you need a little bit of tension in your life. At
Mm.
first, like, I didn't know, I didn't like, I was like, are you trying to fight? Like, I don't understand, like, what are I was so lost. I was like, what are you like, what? What you mean I need tension in my life? What? It's already been hard enough. But he was so on the money. He was so right about it. And it stuck with me. And I just, as I look back on my life over the years, like I realized, oh wow, like these moments of tension are all of this nonsense or seeming nonsense that I've lived through, this
Yeah.
personal hell that I've gone through. Like it's all the conditions and tensions to make me become who I am, with all of the catalyst moments, with all of the mirror moments, with all of the like, oh my God, holy cow moments that just force you, do or die type moments, to either like you either is or you ain't.
Yeah.
Like what's up? What you gonna do?
Shit or get off the pot.
So
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So
And how much of that personal hell was self-induced? And how much of it came from like your mom or your family or relatives or friends around you? Because I think sometimes we forget that sometimes our own hells, we contribute to a lot of our own suffering.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think a huge amount of it was my own doing,
Yeah.
and I think it's one of those things like, as you know better, you do better.
Okay, Maya. She said it best.
Y- so it's just one of those things like like you have to learn from your own mistakes, or mistakes that maybe your parents made, or pay attention to patterns and cycles and things that come around. Like just cyclically and just be like, okay, cool. Well, now that I know this, I'm going to choose differently. And
Mm,
I think a huge part of it is just like embodying embodying the work. It's one thing for you to know it, but it's another thing for you to like know it, and the journey from head to heart to
oh,
like
same.
literally to be and become like the version of yourself that you need to be in order to step over a threshold moment
Yeah,
or whatever. And sometimes, some like it doesn't have to be immediate. I think sometimes people just think that it's right then and there they can decide. No, sometimes like this shit is work. Like this shit is real work. You gotta like center yourself. You gotta do your USA moments. You gotta calm your ass down. you gotta you gotta figure out. You just have to come into order and alignment in here and in here.
yeah,
Think so much of that me that tension has been me oscillating between head and heart, like the feeling of it and the logic behind it. And then there's also a spirituality element that's somewhere and somehow on both ends of that spectrum and everywhere in between. So
yeah.
it's just like you're figuring it out. And so I
Absolutely.
think that's yeah, I just kind of feel like I'm muddying words now. Please stop me. I keep just uh, interrupt me, please. Go
Question.
ahead.
What do you hope to shift in society through your work? What do you hope that your work does to shift our society?
I want my work to point to something bigger and beyond just me and my experiences. I want people to sit with themselves, to reflect and find courage and hope through what I sing and write about. I hope that my work is a catalyst for change in somebody's spiritual evolvement or mental evolvement, emotional evolvement. I think that we have a lot of cowards in the world
Mm,
of
yeah,
them. And it's like, where's your backbone? Where's your spine? Things are hard, yes, but you can do hard things. Like, who are you really going to be in this moment? Like, who do you have to be to meet this moment? There's so
yeah.
much happening in our world where we can see a split in humanity. You can see you were alluding to this earlier.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, like you're learning the character of people. And I think sometimes it's just people refuse to put aside their pride or they refuse, and it's just like, oh wow, like the things that you can miss out on this lifetime in this world in this existence because of your pride and your ego. You
Yeah.
can't, but you're not there. You don't have the range or the scope to see like a bigger picture because you just may not be as involved as the next person, and that's okay. Like, nuance is important, but I do think that a lot of that stems from cowardice
Yeah.
and avoidance. And like, I want people to see themselves reflected in me and what I sing, write, and do. And yeah, like I want to be mirror, not in like I'm a match your energy type situation, but like, oh, like I can see me, I can see your journey, I can see
Mm,
what you've done, what you've had to go through. And yeah, I want people to really feel when I write music, I never write in a way that is like defeating self. Like
mm,
I'm never going to position myself in like a defeatist woe is me kind of way when I write. And that's very intentional, like because especially what with growing up in Christian music and worship music and all that stuff, it's very, I am so weak and
yeah.
feeble and I need the
Save
power
me,
of the
oh God.
Lord.
And I love Time of a Man, but that song, when you talk about really shame, I would have that song on loop
Mhm.
where I was ashamed of who I was becoming. And I would just have that song, Change Me, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and now when I feel like I'm falling short of my faith and my grace and all the things that I want to do, I often play Mary Mary, I Try. I try, sometimes I fail, but I realize that I need your help. Because I am human and I'm imperfect and I'm going to fall short over and over again. And, I live by this idea that grace lives here. Grace lives in every decision, every deadline, and every email I send out, and everything that I do, and every interaction I have. Grace lives here. And what we need more of, I think, is to extend ourselves grace but also to drag a bitch because sometimes people they need to know about the fucked up ways. People this concept of grace, this unearned favor,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you don't know better,
Yeah.
but then
Right, 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 right.
you know better, but you choose not to do better. Maybe that's where the
Yep.
grace stops, right? Because
Right.
no longer you're no longer needing unearned favor.
Yeah. Yep.
You're doing something more than I can give you.
Yeah, it becomes too slippery of a slope, and it can become the dynamic can become extractive, it can become exploitive,
Yeah,
exploitative, if that's how you say that word. It's just like there's an imbalance here, an incongruence.
yeah, yeah.
Often I find like it's people like that who have the most to say, and they can use very like inflammatory language
Mm-hmm.
to yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I mean,
But oh yeah, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been called, I mean, the first year of coming out to my mother, she called me a faggot almost every day. She was so hurt.
Is
Yeah. Mind you, there's also the
I'm
woman.
sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're over it now. It's been many years since then, but there's so much. Um, hmm. And I think that's why, in my career, I've been playing it small for so long
Mm.
because I've always been afraid of being too visible, right? And now I'm like, fuck that bitch. Give me all the visibility. I work hard.
Here and I'm queer.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm queer. Thing. I'm doing the work.
Mhm.
Doing the work at a caliber that I think one deserves to be recognized, and I have
Yeah.
recognition. I'm not saying I don't get recognized in that way, but I do
Sure.
get recognized for my hard work. But one that there needs to be like I published this first collection because there was no story of a queer Puerto Rican disabled kid,
Mhm.
right? So much as a queer Latinx experience is through the lens of immigration. Well, if you're Puerto Rican and your family has been U.S. citizens since the Jones Act, that doesn't apply to you,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I don't see enough representation of disabled queer Latinos on television or in
Mhm.
books or in media. So then I produced something that allowed people to see themselves
Mhm.
reflected at a
Yeah.
very multi-layered intersectional way. If you are
Yeah.
Puerto Rican and gay and disabled, you're going to see
Mhm.
yourself in my book. If you're Puerto Rican, disabled, and gay and femme, you're going to see yourself reflected in my book. If you're a
Yep.
queer Puerto Rican who is disabled and has mental illness, you're going to see yourself in my book. Right? There's so many
Mhm.
things that people are going to be able to see through my book because I believe stories can be a window or a mirror, right? And what I love about your storytelling and your music and your poetry, which is why I kept telling you, I kept pushing you to share more of it, is because people need to see themselves reflected through your lens.
Yeah.
Say Black Latino, and by the way, when I say I'm not saying Afro Latino intentionally, because I know your background, and so you are half Black, half Colombian, and to me, you are a Black Latino. There's no Afro, right? I think sometimes Latinos, who are not, we all know that the anti-Blackness in Latinx communities are in
Mhm.
right now, but there is a distinction between, for me, anyways, between someone who is Afro Latino, someone who is part of the diaspora who has a darker complexion, right? Who may have Afro roots, and someone whose parent is actually just
Mhm.
Black American, right? And like there's a different kind of nuanced, layered experience there. So that's why what I'm saying for my audience, when I'm saying Black Latino, it's not just because he is an Afro Latino, but he's also like has lineage to Southern Black folks, right? And so
Mhm.
I just want to make it
Gullah Geechee.
yeah, so I want to make sure that I make that distinction for people because I usually say Afro Latino if the person is Latinx and also Afro or Black presenting, but in this case I'm saying Black Latino with intention, because I think sometimes the world tries to fragment people too much, and
Mhm. That's so true.
and for you especially right when you start speaking in Spanish or singing in Spanish, people are like, oh wait, you ain't just Black? No, I ain't just Black. I'm Black and all this other stuff, which I always
That's funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, y'all, be sure to check out. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to check out Dion on social media. I'm going to tag his stuff on our show notes. Be sure to listen to his new single called "Better," which I think is so fucking catchy. That's it's the right. It says the right title, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, did I ever say the wrong title? Um, and it's such a catchy song. It's such a beautiful song. It's it's I don't and I've never heard your other music, so I don't know what to I have nothing to compare it to. So like I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what becomes or what comes next for you. Hopefully
Mhm.
hopefully an EP of some sort will come out soon. I'm manifesting that for you, that you get the resources and opportunities to produce that EP. Because that would be dope as fuck. And be sure to follow him on Instagram. He's across on multiple platforms, but I know he's really active on Instagram. So be sure to subscribe, share, and rate this episode with your audience, your community. Share with the gay Christians in your life. Share it with the Christians in your life who need to be more accepting.
Share with a gay Christian today.
Share it with the gay Christian today. Talk about ChristianMeetup.com. No, I'm joking. AKA Grindr. No, I'm
That's
joking.
hilarious.
Um, you gotta share with the people in your life. Share with the African people in your life. Share with the singers of your life, the creative entrepreneurs of your life. We need more than ever before. We need each other. I think this time
Yeah.
is asking us to get back to our communal way of living, and to really rid ourselves of this individualism that white supremacy culture has enforced upon us.
Mhm.
Because we were never meant to live this way, and we didn't live this way before colonization and slavery and white supremacy culture raided our native lands and our people and
All
enslaved us.
facts.
And so I I've known that for a very long time, and that's why I show up the way I show up in community, because we're never meant to do this alone.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm so thankful that you're a new friend, that our friendship is budding. I'm so honored to know you and to exist in your orbit. You are so talented. You are so brilliant. And every time I speak to you, I feel intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually energized by you.
Oh,
So thank you so much for existing. Thank you for sharing your story with us today. And thank you for being a guest on the shift.
thank you for having me. I
Yes.
had a great time. I did not think that much time flew by already,
Okay,
but
we
I
can go
guess
back
that's all
over.
that's. I know we can do this. Let's do lunch. Let's do lunch soon or something. Let's hang out.
We'll schedule time to hang out one on one again. But yes, that's what we're
Yeah.
doing. But yes, habla soon. Thank you all. Be well.